Hello again, everybody. This is Comic Book Hangover. It is Monday, and it is time for a mini Monday, and this is actually take two. I don't know what happened the last time when I was recording this. I got all the way to the end of it and realized that somehow the recording stopped. So I'm going to be checking my monitor here from time to time to make sure this doesn't happen again. Because, well, we're going to see if I can remember anything that I said last time. Well, first of all, for mini Mondays and full run Fridays, as I've said before, all this month are going to be Halloween, horror, themed because, well, it's October. It's time for Halloween, so why the hell not? So this week, I decided to do sort of a deep dive into my collection and get a book that I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about. I did see some videos for last week when I did Mort the Dead Teenager. I did see some videos on YouTube about Mort the Dead Teenager. I have not seen anybody talk about this book or even mention this character at all, and it is Nightside. Now, Nightside, Cindy Tane. The book was published from December 2001 to March 2002. It was written by Robert Weinberg, who was a sort of a mainstream writer at the time. He'd done a lot of adventure, a lot of sci-fi. He did some stuff for some role-playing games, apparently. At least that's what I've been able to find out through a quick search online. So if I misread any of that information, please correct me in the comments down below. But this is a character of his creation. So this book does not take place in the 616. Does not take place in Marvel proper. It actually takes place. The Earth designated 1211 is where this takes place. And as far as I know, this is the only time we ever see this Earth. Now, Nightside refers to the realm in her world or the time of night, I guess, where in her world, vampires and werewolves and ghouls and wraiths and all that sort of supernatural stuff, that's their time. When we live in the daytime, so this is the day side. So at night it becomes the night side. So if that means that normal people aren't allowed to go out at night, I don't know. They don't really get into those kind of specifics in that because we only got 4 issues and we're introducing a lot of new concepts along the way. Now the book focuses on a series of murders that so in this world in New York, there are 6 bosses, 6 families of these supernatural creatures, okay? And there's murders. The victims are the heads of these families. So Cindy Tyne, her, and her partner, Ape Largo, who is the son of a circus strongman and a very, very intelligent individual, aside from that, they own and they run the Nightside Detective Agency. So they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out who's doing these killings and why. And that leads into some international conspiracy or national intrigue where the Black Dragon Society, sort of a Yakuza organization from Japan, are in New York, and they're the ones that are kind of behind the killings because somewhere in the Nightside are these lost artifacts from Japan, the lost treasures of Tao. There's 3 of them. There's a mask, there's a skull, and there's a katana, a sword. And they want these things because with each of these things together, they'll be able to rule the underworld or whatever the reason is. So they part of the conspiracy is they're conducting these murders so that the underworld, the Nightside, will war, I guess, and when they're warring, it's easier for them to get the artifacts that they need or something. I don't know. They don't really explain it too well, which is one of the problems with this series. They don't really explain too much as far as what the rules are, which is understandable. I mean, now we're more cognizant of that sort of thing, in this day and age with, everything having to be connected. But this being a one-off, standalone, not 616 book, I mean, it's more of like a day in the life of. It's not, a major. It's not, an end game sort of situation for Cindy and Ape. It's just sort of another case that they have to solve. And they're going to get to the bottom of it in any way, shape, or form, any way possible, which leads them to, confrontations with vampires, leads them to, she winds up fighting a dragon. She, it's sort of a at the same time, let's put it this way, at the same time, it's a wide-reaching story, but it's also a very contained story, if that makes any sense at all. But aside from that, the story, has its beginning, its middle, its end. They drop little things which made me think that they wanted to do more with it. For example, they mentioned Cindy's brother, who has one panel, I think, in the entire book, but he's mentioned numerous times throughout. So gave me the impression that they were sort of trying to set up another story where he was going to be the main focus of it, or maybe come back, or if he's dead, maybe he'll be a ghost or something. I don't know, but they kept mentioning him, but nothing more came of it. I guess Weinberg wanted to do another Nightside story, but there's nothing that came from it. And unfortunately, from what research I was able to do, he passed away, I think, in 2016. So we're not going to get anything more unless Marvel decides they want to do something more with it. But this is a creator-owned character, so they would have to get permission from his estate, I would assume, to do anything more with her. I would like to see more, because it would be nice to see this whole idea of Nightside sort of expanded on. I don't know if that would mean maybe another publisher picking up the concepts and the characters and running with it, or Marvel, if they were to do something with it, they would want to bring her into the 616, which would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see her sort of interact with characters like Hannibal King and Frank Drake from Night Stalkers, if they're still doing their investigative supernatural stuff. But that aside, it's a one and done story. It's not a very strong story, but on the flip side, as you can see, because this is one of my favorite covers of all time. The art is done by Tom Derenick, if I'm pronouncing that right. And he has this sort of, I don't know if this is going to focus very well. You can see it's not smooth. There's a sort of a grainy feel to it. It's almost like he was drawing with actual pencil and shading with pencil, and then he just did the coloring over that. The entire book is done in this style, and it's very, very cool. It does add to the atmosphere and the tone and the feel of the book, so it kind of makes up for the sort of lacklusterness of the story itself. Because Sydney's a great character, Ape's a great character, but the story just, all due respect, the story just really wasn't there. Go to the next issue. Now, this book did remind me of something as I was reading. Now, the first time I read it, it was just kind of like, okay, I mainly kind of stuck with it because the covers are amazing. The covers are absolutely awesome. Can't say much for the Nightside logo, but I do love the art style. So that's the main reason why I stuck with it. Plus, it was just a 4-issue miniseries. The second time I read it, for this video, it reminded me, actually, of another book that I have, Dylan Dog. Dylan Dog, I think, is an Italian series from a couple years back. I think this actually predates Nightside some. But the characters and the concepts are kind of the same in both of these books. You've got Dylan Dog, who is a human in an investigative capacity that deals with supernatural characters. Sydney is a human who has the Nightside Detective Agency, and she deals with the supernatural characters. In Dylan Dog, at least in the movie, they reference a sort of a truce. There's just this understanding that we have to stay away from the humans, and in the Nightside, they have this mantra, keep the secret, so to keep them away from, stay away from humans. And in the Nightside, the reason why they're doing that makes a lot of sense, because these characters, these creatures, know that they're vastly outnumbered by the human race, and if the humans ever found out that they existed, they wouldn't last. There was no chance of survival for them. So they stay among themselves, and they have their own areas and their own clubs and their own businesses that they cater to, which makes sense. So but there's a lot of similarities between the two. But I'd say Dylan Dog is probably a little bit better. I need to reread that. I haven't read that in a couple of years. But Nightside, again, the covers are great. The art is amazing, and I would actually recommend. If you're one of these guys and gals like me, if you're a comic book a person like me, and sometimes you can overlook not a bad story, but a sort of a weak story, a flimsy story. If the art is good, then this is definitely a book to pick up and check out. This should be pretty cheap. I can't imagine that this book is selling for $5 or $4. This is a $1 bin book, all day long and twice on Saturdays. So, if you're looking for a book that has an interesting art style to it, that's something that I don't think Marvel has ever really done. outside of I guess maybe back in the 70s when they were doing magazines. 70s, early 80s, like when they took Howard the Duck and Tomb of Dracula and turned them into magazines, and in some panels of the Nightmare on Elm Street mag that they had. It's an art style that is wholly unique to this book. Similar to how those titles that I mentioned had their own sort of signature art style. So again, if you're a comic book fan that is willing to overlook a weak story for great and interesting and unique art, this is definitely the book to check out. But it's not a book that you want to check out for the story. It's, like I said, it is a pretty weak story. Great characters, great concepts. It wasn't one of those books that I had to force myself to read through a second time. I was able to stick with it. My mind didn't wander. People out there, you know what I mean when I say that. When you're reading a book that's just not really that good, you just kind of start, maybe just like looking at the panels, looking at the artwork, or you just put it down and maybe come back to it later. It wasn't like that. So it's not a horrible story. It's just a weak story. And to me, that means there's a lot of room for growth in this Nightside universe, Earth 1211, if you will. Will it ever happen? I doubt it. This book, late 2001, early 2002, it's basically a decade old. Nothing's ever come of it. She has shown up in some other stuff that Weinberg wrote, some short stories, something that he had done for a role-playing game company. He brought her over through like a dimensional rift so she could help fight some monsters or something like that. I may look those up, but I heard that those stories also were not the best. But it'd be nice to see something more with her. I guess there's even like her brother was the main character in some other books that he had written, or some other stories that he had written. But that's it. We're going to wrap this one up. Nightside. It's I'd say it's worth looking at because the art, the story, it's weak, it's flimsy, but it's a narrative that you can follow. It's not a badly written book. It's not a badly executed story. It's flimsy, and that's mostly because there's a lot of opportunity for expansion that we're never going to get, unfortunately. So that said, we're going to wrap this up. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for your continued support. If you've checked out, and I'm honestly legitimately curious about this. If anybody out there has actually read or has Nightside in your collection, let me know in the comments down below, or give me a like to let me know. Hey, boom, click that like button and let me know you've got it. If you like what I'm doing in general, if you like my videos, go ahead and like. Please like these videos, or they're I guess liking, it helps with some algorithm or something. And I'm a very small channel, so it's not going to make that much of a difference, but it would be nice to get some more likes on these videos, so I'd appreciate it. If you're watching this, just click it, and you can move on with your life. Comment down below if you've checked this out. What are your thoughts and opinions on it? Hit that notification button so you know I got new videos coming on. I'm going to be doing them every Monday this month and every Friday this month. After that, I'm not sure what the regularity of those other two videos are going to be, but every Thursday I do have my weekly haul and weekly review video, so definitely tune in and check that one out. Again, if you subscribe and hit that notification button, you'll know about those when they're coming out. So again, everybody, thanks for watching, thanks for checking this out. Nightside. I can't really give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's just kind of like, it's kind of in the middle, But let me know what you thought about it if you've checked it out. Very curious to know how many out there know or remember Nightside. I'll see everybody on Thursday for my weekly haul, weekly review video. Have a good one.